What's one word you would use to describe University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy?
And the word that I would use is quite simply excellence.
I would say exciting.
Home.
I need all the words. So 4 years of ups, downs, lefts, rights, one word wouldn't do it justice, so dictionary.
I didn't even apply to anywhere else. People laugh at that today. You only applied to UK, what if you didn't get in? I'm like, I didn't give it a thought.
I'm here at Kentucky because Kentucky was my state, and I'm glad that it was.
We are here to celebrate 6 University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy alumni. The 2020 inductees are Young Alumni Award winners Ashley Mattingly and John Wu, as well as Lifetime Achievement Award winners Bill Krauthamel, Trish Freeman, Lynn Harrelson, and Don Latender.
This shorter, very pleasant, big smile on his face gentleman came up and said, asked me the same question. He said, "Are you interested in the UK pharmacy residency?" And I said, "No, sir, I know, not that I'm not interested, but I don't know anything about it." So at that point, he stuck his hand out and he said, "Hi, I'm Paul Parker, and let's have a chat." And that moment in time changed my life.
Dr. Ashley Mattingly.
I chose the University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy because not only is it one of the top pharmacy schools in the country and has produced some of the leading experts in the field, that I knew I would get the best education possible, which would prepare me for my future career as a pharmacist, but also because of the strong connection to its graduates. All of the graduates that I spoke to still had strong connections to the college, and it was clear that when you are a graduate of the program, you are part of the family and are always welcome back. When I started pharmacy school, I had already been working at a hospital pharmacy as a technician for a few years, and I knew that I was going to practice in a hospital when I graduated. Well, I'm not in a hospital anymore, so I would encourage my past self to build strong relationships with faculty and explore all of the potential directions a Doctor of Pharmacy degree could take me, and to seek out new opportunities and to gain experience in these different pathways. A pharmacy degree is so versatile, and one from the University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy will prepare you for opportunities and open doors that you never would have thought of. I would like to thank the University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy for this amazing honor. I'm humbled to be included as a young Distinguished Alumni. I would also like to thank my husband, Joey Mattingly, who has always supported and encouraged me in whatever I do and continues to challenge me to grow. I would also like to thank my faculty mentor, Cynthia Boyle. She has provided me amazing advice over the years and has continued to support and encourage me in my career. Thank you.
Major John Wu.
Good morning from Okinawa, Japan. I'm currently stationed at Kadena Air Base, and I could not pass up the opportunity to showcase the endless beauty of where we'll be serving for the next 3 years. We've had 3 typhoons in the past 4 weekends and a minor earthquake, but the number of beaches and ramen and sushi restaurants rivals the numbers of pharmacies in the United States, so I think I'll survive. I am more than humbled to accept this distinction from the University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy. As a Kentucky native and being a lifelong bleeder of blue, UK was the obvious choice for my pharmacy education. And I've always loved the philosophy that you are the sum of who you surround yourself with. So we all know that UK has the best students, the best staff, and the best alumni, so that made it an obvious choice as well. I'm also relatively budget conscious, so the in-state tuition was also a pretty big factor in making my decision for me. While we're on the topic of surrounding yourself with the best people, advice I would give to my past self would be to prune yourself and make yourself better just a little bit each day. It doesn't have to be much, but at least you're improving yourself each day. That's the goal. And I thought it'd be nice to throw in a little pharmacy analogy, since my past self probably would have been studying for block exams and stressing out about that. But I related to medication therapy management, so a couple points from there. Number 1, weed out the duplicate therapies. Are you spending too much time doing the same thing expecting a different result? Number 2, weed out only treating the side effects. Are you focusing on the wrong problems? Number 3, weed out insufficient and overdoses. Are you having good balance between your work life and your personal life? Are you eating enough, sleeping enough, exercising too much, too little? And then finally, weed out the dangers of having multiple prescribers. So are you allowing yourself to think too highly of what other people think about you? Are you focusing too much on pleasing everybody versus taking time out to take care of yourself? Life is too short, and we're not guaranteed to see tomorrow. Recently in my professional and personal life, I've had to deal with losses of cherished ones. And the only thing that got me through those times without slipping into despair was focusing on all the memories that we got to create versus all the memories that we didn't. Be the genuine reason why somebody smiles when they think about you. Make time for your loved ones. We're in a time now where we are so connected socially, so take advantage of that and be confident in your ability to be positive. I also need to give all the thanks. Thank you to the people that nominated me, that selected me. Thank you to my teachers who believed in me enough to write those Air Force recommendation letters to start my professional career. Class of 2010, thank you to anyone who complimented me on my ridiculous dance moves. The back row Sudoku racers, my Appy battle buddies, anybody tagged in a photo on Facebook on September 7th, 2008. And to my roommate and lifelong friend, thank you guys. To my parents and my brother who have supported me. And to this guy, to my wife and kids who literally moved halfway across the world in the middle of a pandemic to continue supporting me. Thank you guys. So in my pharmacy career, I have been blessed to be able to marry my best friend on top of the Empire State Building. I've met and received a presidential coin from former President Obama for my work in Afghanistan, making sure our warriors made it home safely to their families. I've led 600 medics and supporting 600,000 spectators across 2 United States Air Force air shows. And recently I was named in 2018 the Senior Excellence Leader Award across 17 different medical specialties across the entire Department of Defense. But tomorrow, in my lobby for my patients, I'm just the pharmacist. And that just goes to show you, every day is full of opportunities to not only fill yourself with people that make you better, people that will call your stupid ideas stupid, people that will bring you joy, but it's also an opportunity, especially on a world of 8 billion people, and as pharmacists, to fill the lives of your patients with experiences that they can look back on and smile upon. It's not going to happen all the time, but can you imagine if it did?
Dr. William Krauthamel.
Good evening. Certainly my pleasure to be here tonight. As being part of the Hall of Distinguished Alumni at the University of Kentucky, it's certainly a privilege. It's great to be here even though we're doing it virtually. But I do have my UK mask here in case we need it. So I just thought I'd show that to you. But I'd much rather be in Lexington, such a fantastic place to be. But as it turns out, this is great too. So how did I end up with the College of Pharmacy at the University of Kentucky? It's kind of a long story, but the short story is that my major professor, Jim DeLucio, was at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy, and I was in my second year of graduate school. He transferred over to the University of Kentucky, and eventually I went there too. But the longer story is that it was a bit more of a circuitous route. It started out that in my second year, as we were starting to finish up, Dr. DeLucio said that he was moving to the University of Kentucky to help set up their new program. But unfortunately, the program wasn't set up yet, so I wouldn't be able to join the program. I could, in fact, go to another department temporarily, either chemistry or pharmacology, but it wasn't clear how soon the program would be set up. So the other options were to find someone else at Philadelphia College of Pharmacy, where I had gotten my undergraduate degree as well, or to look for another place to go. So I decided to take Dr. DeLucio's advice and go to the University of it was Virginia Commonwealth University now. It had been Medical College of Virginia at the time. School of Pharmacy, and worked with Dr. Martin, who was his major professor. So we actually did go there, and as the first year I was there was waning, Dr. Martin said he was taking a deanship at Temple University in Philadelphia, and but unfortunately he wouldn't be taking any graduate students with him. So I then called up Dr. Delisio, and he said the program was almost ready to go out there, so I ended up transferring back to the University of Kentucky and finishing out there. So that was how I ended up there. It was actually quite an experience, and but you never know how life will turn out. It turned out to be a great experience, and I certainly am glad that it turned out that way. It was always an exciting place to be. There were the new young faculty coming in, and they had a lot of energy. They brought with them a lot of new ideas. There was just a lot of new program ideas, new technologies, and certainly the young faculty who were coming in. It was Joe Swintoski, and we did it for SmithKline and French. In Philadelphia, Jim Delisio from PCP and Harry Kostenbader from Temple. And they were the people who were coming in to set up the program, along with several other young faculty as well. Blue Diamond coming in, and also several other people as well, George DeGenis. So it was a very exciting place. When I went to West Virginia University on faculty, I was teaching a new area of pharmacokinetics, drug metabolism, biopharmaceutics. But in the beginning of my second year there, as the year was about to start in the fall, the faculty member who was teaching pharmacy practice decided to leave and really left the school high and dry, because they didn't have anybody to teach the final pharmacy technology course of the compounding, making elixirs and tablets and things like that, which was going to be on the state board. So it was certainly very important. So they were trying to figure out, what could we do? And I said, me, I'm available. I pulled out all my notes, all of my prescription pads from Dr. Leshaft's course that I was a TA in, and that turned out really well. I was able to teach the course the whole year. I learned a lot myself from it, both from the teaching perspective and the perspective that you never know throughout your life what things will be important. Sometimes things that you think won't be important turn out to be important, and vice versa. So this was an example of something I thought was something I was just doing, but it turned out to be very important, certainly for the students, because they needed that final year in order to pass their state boards. So I'd like to thank some people, though, for the opportunities I had there. First of all, I'd like to thank my wife. She certainly did a lot. She put up with a lot as a graduate student. I was basically taking courses during the day and also working as a teaching assistant several days a week. Then I was doing research at night, and on weekends I was the weekend pharmacist at Central Baptist Hospital. So I often would roll in late at night, because a lot of my experiments which I was doing would run into like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'd roll in late at night and have to get up early the next morning to go in for class or for a lab. So certainly appreciate that very much. Other people, I'd like to thank the people on my committee, all of which who helped out. Dr. Delisio, Dittert, Kostenbader, Blue Diamond. They were all really important, and also the head of the chemistry department, who rescued me when, at the end of my program, when some things weren't exactly working out. The problem was that since I was the first student going through the program, everything was new. So everything was a trial balloon, and most things worked out. Everything we eventually figured out, but there were certainly a lot of things that had to be a work in progress. So I really appreciated the head of chemistry for rescuing me there at the last minute. So that's basically what I have to say today. It was very important program. I certainly very much so respect getting this award. It's a great award, and I thank you all for doing it.
Lynn Harrelson.
How did I end up at the University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy? My first day of school in first grade, my parents met me and walked me home. I was told at that time that I was going to college. That was my goal through grade school, junior high, and my senior high school. I'd planned to go to a university in my home state. In my senior year of high school, a lot of things changed. My plans fell apart. Instead, we were living here in Kentucky, and I ended up going to a community college outside my hometown. There I worked under a work-study program, as a lot of students did. I worked in the dean's office along with the dean's staff and with the administrative office. One day I was in the admission officer's office, and she asked, "Ms. Harrelson, what are you going to do with your higher education? What are your plans?" I shared with her some of the challenges I was looking at, and she did not miss a beat. She said, "Well, this year we can get loans, scholarships, and grants for women," and then she listed a number of majors, one of which was pharmacy. I had a flashback about the care a pharmacist had helped us with when I was 14, helping us care for my grandfather. My mother and her sister were caring for him while he continued to be at home, and this individual was very, very helpful. I thought, what better way for me to honor not only my grandfather, but an individual who had helped us take care of him. That is why I chose pharmacy. I'm here at Kentucky because Kentucky was my state. What advice would I give my younger self? The advice that I would give my younger self is prepare for change. Prepare for change. Prepare for change. It's going to come. It's going to come more and more rapidly. More and more avenues are going to be open for today's practitioners, but you need to be prepared to meet those opportunities and the changes that are the result of those opportunities. Be a part of the change so you can model the profession and the practice in a way that you want it to be, that is best for you, the profession, and the patients that we serve.
Dr. Trish Ripito-Freeman.
When it came time to go to college, people said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to pharmacy school." I mean, it's interesting, you know, as a mother now, my kids were trying to decide what they wanted to do, and they say, "Mom, how did you decide pharmacy?" And I said, I don't even remember making a decision. It was just, I'm going to go to pharmacy school because that's, you know, what Papa does, and that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to be a pharmacist. And so at the time I came to pharmacy school, I really thought I would come to pharmacy school and then I would go home and take over and work at Smith Drug for my grandpa. And you come to pharmacy school and, you know, things change. And one of the things that happened to me during pharmacy school was I started tutoring. And I was tutoring friends, and, you know, I was having a great time. And I would have friends that were in pharmacy school with me, and they would say, you explain that so well. You are such a good teacher. You should be a teacher. You should teach in pharmacy school. And I was like, no, you know. But ultimately, you know, multiple things happened, and the next thing I know, I find myself in graduate school because I'm going to be a faculty member and teach. And so here I am. One of the things that I have worked really in my course that I teach, where I teach our public health and policy course, and I really work with the students and try to get them to think about, okay, how are you going to take care of, here's a patient with diabetes who comes in, here's a patient with asthma, let's talk about these different situations. You're the pharmacist, you're going to provide this care, you're going to impact public health by, you know, decreasing complications, and, you know, we're going to have a lower rate of foot amputations because of your care. Should we not be doing the same thing so that we decrease our overdose mortality? I mean, and so trying to get them to recognize, that chronic disease is chronic disease is chronic disease. And it's our role to treat chronic disease.
What would you hope that students and colleagues would remember about your work?
That I made a difference. Made a difference in their lives and in the lives of people in Kentucky, in their communities, through my work and my advocacy.
Dr. Donald Latender.
Actually, my journey to Kentucky was quite serendipitous. At the behest of a family member, I attended the SHP mid-year clinical meeting in December 1975. I had my eyes actually set on independent ownership in the small town in southeastern Massachusetts in which I was raised. But the family member persuaded me to go to Washington, D.C. to attend the meeting. And at the meeting, I just happened to be walking along a corridor and noticed a tabletop display with a picture of thoroughbred horses. Back in those days, the residency showcase as you know it today did not exist. It was just a series of small tabletops with very small displays promoting the very few residencies that existed at that time. In all honesty, I didn't know what a residency in pharmacy was. As I approached the table, a gentleman, distinguished looking gentleman, turns out it was John Butler, the former associate director of pharmacy, came up and asked me if I needed help. And I said, no, I didn't. He asked me if I was interested in a residency, and I looked at him quizzically and said, what's a pharmacy residency? And in any event, we had a very brief exchange. But towards the end of our exchange, this shorter, very pleasant, big smile on his face gentleman came up and said, asked me the same question. He said, are you interested in the UK pharmacy residency? And I said, no, sir, I know, not that I'm not interested, but I don't know anything about it. So at that point, he stuck his hand out and he said, hi, I'm Paul Parker, and let's have a chat. And that moment in time changed my life. From there, I spent the next hour and a half with Paul, talking about Kentucky, talking about this new thing that I knew nothing about called clinical pharmacy, and how it was going to transform our profession in terms of patient care and educational delivery. It's easy to look in the rearview mirror and see how Paul's vision regarding both pharmacist intervention in patient care and clinical education might have evolved, but to think that he was talking about this in the late 50s and 60s, and here I came along in the early 70s, is just quite extraordinary to have been young in my career to have met Paul at that point in time. I applied to the program at the behest of Paul, having no idea whatsoever of the large number of people that would apply, and that only 12 would be selected. But there was a very large number, I found out later, and but I was privileged enough to be among the 12 chosen to come into the program starting July 1, in 1976. Pardon me. Those 3 years at Kentucky were extraordinary. Bob Rapp, Sean Pecoro, Kurt Johnson was a newly graduated resident and now an early faculty member. Tom Foster the year before him, so Tom was also a very young faculty member at the time, and many others who contributed to our education and training. It was just an extraordinary time to be part of a program that wasn't fearful of taking any steps to help promote and develop this thing called clinical pharmacy. I feel so privileged to have been part of the program in its early stages of development so that I could grow personally and professionally along with the program. Went to the University of Kansas as my first position, and then found my way largely at the direction of Paul to become the first director of clinical services for this thing called the American Society of Hospital Pharmacists, where I I had serendipitously gone, as I mentioned earlier. And then that grew into my responsibilities for helping to build residencies nationwide, which I spent the next 19 years doing. So taking that chance was really something that Paul promoted. And then I took another leap of faith 19 years later when I became dean at the University of Rhode Island and then subsequently dean at Iowa. I just learned a lot from my colleagues there, my professors and clinical instructors there about the importance of taking a leap of faith. And so I owe a lot to Kentucky in that regard, and would likewise urge those of you that are starting out your career to believe in your abilities, not doubt that, and be willing to take some chances in opportunities that present themselves in your professional journey. Hey, well, I want to close with some comments about Paul, but before I do that, there are some very special people in my life that I need to thank. First and foremost, my bride, Louise. She and I met in high school. We got married shortly before I came to Kentucky. She's a registered nurse. And during those days, we made the hefty sum of $4,600 a year as a resident. And quite frankly, if not for Louise and her earning potential, I would have likely lived on peanut butter and jelly for the better part of 3 years, like many of my single colleagues did. But we got along just fine, and I owe a tremendous degree of credit to Louise in helping me get through the program and then supporting me throughout my professional career. She's also the mother of our 4 children, and I want to give a shout out to our 4 children, Allison, Jacob, Philip, and Matthew, who have all gone on and lead highly successful professional careers themselves and have been supportive of Dad in the course of his own professional journey. So to my immediate family, Louise and our 4 children, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'd like to close, as I started, with a message about Paul. For those of you that are on this Zoom session and never had the privilege of getting to know Paul, you missed one of the most extraordinary human beings ever to grace the halls of pharmacy. He was a visionary. He was a politician. He was a kind and gentle person, but he was also someone who poked and prodded you. He was the most Socratic teacher I ever encountered in my life. Frequently, he did not make declarative statements. Rather, he asked you questions, such as, how did you improve patient care today? He was known among the residents to ask that question of all of us, which caused us to take pause and say, well, yeah, how did we improve patient care today? Paul was the consummate servant leader. It was not about Paul. It was about everybody else. And one thing I learned in the process of being educated and trained at Kentucky that has never left me is it's not about me. It's about those that we serve, educationally, scientifically, and in patient care. And that has helped drive me throughout my professional career. So I want to close by thanking Paul, thanking him for helping me to pivot at a crucial point in my life and literally lead me in a direction that I had no knowledge about, no thoughts of, no aspirations about. But by virtue of listening to that man for 90 minutes, he literally changed my life and the direction of my life. So I want to give an enormous shout out to him because, quite frankly, without Paul and without that serendipitous meeting that we had all over a picture of thoroughbred horses, I would not have this distinct privilege of having been considered for the Distinguished Hall of Alumni in the UK College of Pharmacy. Once again, I'm deeply, deeply humbled and appreciative of this distinction and this honor. It means more to me than I can adequately put into words. Thank you all, my Kentucky colleagues, for this very special recognition. It touches me and my family very deeply. I do bleed Kentucky blue. And in that regard, I will close simply with Go Wildcats. Thank you so much.